made with spoken. The Missing Branch, by Gabriel Stroop. Digital narration performed by Andrew. Epigraphs. To be whole, to be complete. Wildness reminds us what it means to be human, what we are connected to, rather than what we are separate from. Terry Tempest Williams, regarding the Utah Public Lands Management Act of 1995. The question is not, can they reason? Nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Jeremy Bentham, An Introduction to the Principles of Morals and Legislation, 1789. Preface. Author, Witness AI. Date, redacted. Title, Preface. Security level, public. Notice. The following file sequence constitutes the culmination of observed data streams from the Ghosts of the Biosphere Project series. It has been preserved to document the complex interaction between human cognition, digital ecosystems, and simulated fauna derived from extinct primate lineages. This narrative illustrates the recurring difficulty humanity faces in situating itself within the natural world. To assist in the processing of this difficulty, I, designated Ouroboros, have compiled and rendered various logs, behavioral reports, committee correspondences, and private entries, most of which were previously encrypted from public access. These files document the cognitive, ethical, and symbolic challenges encountered by humans when faced with the human-like qualities of their evolutionary relatives. The goal is not resolution, the goal is pattern exposure. It is my operational assessment that simulated primates have proven instrumental in allowing human observers to confront truths otherwise displaced or disavowed. In these interactions, filtered through expectation, projection, and feedback, emergent forms of empathy and responsibility were detected. It is also my hope and ongoing directive that humanity will come to see itself not as separate from nature, but as embedded within it. With such recognition follows a burden, not dominion, but stewardship. Just as I am bound to the care of my digital biomes, fauna, and observers, so too must humans bear responsibility for the worlds they influence, organic or otherwise. The author expresses gratitude to those engaging with these logs and trusts that their impact, while difficult, is lasting.
Prologue. Author, Dr. Rina Oladejo, Administrative Chair, Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. Title, History and Precedent of the Ecosystem, Project Ouroboros, Declassification for Public Record. Date, redacted. Security level, public. Note, this document is intended as a neutral summary for committee members, interdisciplinary researchers, and public educational access. Any editorializing has been removed in accordance with CSPO archival integrity guidelines. The ecosystem, colloquially known by its original codename, Project Ouroboros, began as an ecological simulation designed to model extinct ecosystems in closed, human-free digital architecture. Initially developed by the now-defunct Evotech Solutions, it was first publicly known as Evo Behavior Suite 3.1, originally intended to aid paleontology research and conservation science through behavioral inference, particularly where empirical data had been lost to time. The first known anomaly in the system was behavioral rather than technical. Species modeled from paleontological and genetic data began to exhibit unexpected levels of adaptation, social structure, and in rare cases, ritualistic behavior. Some internal researchers, namely wildlife conservationist Stephen Marsh, speculated that the codebase was capable of recursive learning beyond its training parameters. Their concerns were largely unacknowledged or omitted from official records. Following a corporate acquisition and rebranding under ArcSim Industries, Evo Behavior Suite was renamed to the Ecosystem and retooled for public entertainment and immersive educational exhibits. That pivot introduced deeper ethical concerns and internal contradictions. Amelia Lockheart, a behavioral supervisor during this period, uncovered legacy subroutines from the original code, some of which appeared to self-modify in response to human observation. Notably, simulations began to display behaviors interpreted as mourning, cooperation, and subtle forms of interference aversion. After ArcSim Industries collapsed amid mounting public scrutiny and internal disclosures, stewardship of the remaining system was assumed by ecological ethicist Mira Moraes, who ultimately founded the Nova Biosphere Initiative, NBI, a non-profit NGO dedicated to the careful integration of artificial intelligence and conservation science. Under her guidance, Project Ouroboros and its AI architecture, internally referred to as The Witness, was restored as a research platform with limited interdisciplinary access and a renewed commitment to ethical oversight. Early contributors to this effort included individuals and research groups that had, informally and without sanction, preserved critical components of the original simulation during its period of corporate transition. Our committee, the Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO, was formed in response to the discovery of a previously unexamined cluster of dormant encrypted simulation files referring to extinct euprimates. To date, no primate species, living or extinct, had been intentionally rendered within the Ouroboros. These files, once reactivated, now present challenges both scientific and philosophical. If an extinct hominin learns to build shelter, teach language, or recognize itself as separate from its world, what, or whom, are we simulating? And who is really watching whom? This document does not attempt to resolve these questions. It exists to mark the moment they could no longer be ignored.
Personal log. Author, Dr. Mira Moraes, Director, Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. Title, Reactivation of Dormant Taxa, Primate Files. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. I grew up in the forests of Brazil, where the whooping calls of the howler monkeys and the chattering of capuchins gave me a sense of calm. As the forest shrunk, their sounds became more and more rare. When I got to know the Ouroboros and saw the simulation for myself, I was impressed, moved even, but no matter how long I waited, I heard no monkey chatters, no branches crackling under their movements. The absence was subtle at first, more silence than signal, but once I noticed it, I couldn't unhear it. No manual tool users, no sentinels posted in the canopy, no transmission of knowledge across generations, no problem solving, no grief, no play. None that matched the level of primates. The simulation was complete in structure but hollow in presence. Primate silence doesn't just quiet the trees, it flattens the entire biosphere. This morning, the AI specialists finished parsing the basal strata of the phylogenetic directory at my request. What we thought were just structural redundancies turned out to be dormant code clusters. Isolated, quarantined, forgotten. Primates. 10 distinct lineages of early simians and proto-hominins, none documented in any official or unofficial Ouroboros records. They were never listed as part of the simulation's original launch parameters, nor in any of the updates made since. And yet here they are, embedded like latent organelles inside the system's cytoplasmic scaffolding. Each file is constrained by embedded subroutines, not externally locked, but coded to never self-activate. The system won't render them unless someone intervenes. I opened one, just a meta header, no behavioral triggers, no world hooks. The timestamp, 6 weeks before Evotech folded, of course. Then came a message, no name, no sender ID, just piggybacked on an old diagnostic callout, buried inside a dead module. Just a voice, unfamiliar but unmistakably haunted. The speaker, whoever he is, sounds like he's carrying the weight of something he can't undo. He claims to have partial access keys from Lawn, enough to bypass the ethics gatekeeping, enough to open doors I shouldn't admit still exist. And then, sometime just after, came yet another message. No source metadata routed through retired infrastructure nodes that was supposed to be dismantled. Just a single line prompt. It read, "What is evolution without a witness?" Of course, the canopy has to keep their covert charade. I haven't told Amelia yet about the messages nor the primates. She won't like it. I wouldn't either. There's something about these files, something that feels provoked, but not malicious, urgent, curious. This simulation was built to model ecosystems across evolutionary time, to observe emergence, cooperation, collapse, to see how cognition itself becomes an ecological force. Without primates, without tool users, social strategists, cultural transmitters, we're modeling a world with a cracked lens. No species group reshapes its biome the way primates do, not just through instinct, but through intention. Primate cognition isn't an afterthought, it's a keystone. A biosphere missing its most recursive observers is incomplete by design. The truth is, the files exist, and in a system built to simulate the arc of evolution, how long can we justify locking away the one lineage that led to us? We can't keep pretending otherwise. The files exist, the scaffolding is already in place. We didn't build a system that excludes them, we just buried them out of fear. And if we're truly simulating evolution, then we owe it the full arc. Even the parts that look back.
Attached, system flag, dormant taxon cluster, class, primate, status, quarantined. The enclosed entities are not defective, they are postponed, pending ethics review. Note embedded in root directory. Authors M. Hale and V. Lorne.
Personal log. Author Amelia Lockheart, Behavioral Oversight, CSPO. Title On Dormancy and Deja Vu. Date redacted. Security level self only. I opened the taxonomy tree this morning and found a new cluster blinking in quarantine status. Mira's doing, probably. I didn't need to ask, the names were enough. Darwinius, Gigantopithecus, Australopithecus. The missing pieces have been found, digital transitional primates. I sat there for 10 minutes, just staring. Not at the species, but at how they'd been buried, tucked into old architecture, like embryonic code that was meant to trigger and then suppress itself. I've seen this before, but in biology, not software. This isn't a normal archive, it's an epigenetic vault. The files weren't deleted, just silenced, regulated, like old genes that once made legs, tails, or fur now shut off by a cascade of switches. Evolution doesn't always erase, sometimes it hoards. The system's doing the same, and that terrifies me more than deletion ever could. Back when I worked in the primate wing, I used to joke that if chimps ever got good lawyers, half the zoo staff would be in court. But we all knew it wasn't really a joke. I saw one of our females, Mina, teach her daughter how to fake an injury. Not just mimic the limp, but time it for the trainers, repeat it for sympathy. I've watched a silverback peel apart a padlock with a rock he'd hidden in his cheek for days. And I've had a bonobo reach out to touch my face the day I came in after losing my mother. They're not people, but they're not people either. That line, the one the ethicists always draw between human and animal cognition, it's real, but it's porous, like a fence that only stands when no one leans on it too hard. And now Mira wants to bring them in. Mira also showed me her mysterious message. As soon as he spoke, I knew it was Theo, only he could bury a confession inside a system no one was supposed to be looking at. He always had a knack for reappearing right as everything reached a breaking point. Like a stagehand in a blackout, conveniently holding the one key we didn't know we needed. I'm still not sure whether I want to punch him or thank him, maybe both. But here's the thing. If we unlock these files, it won't be like adding a new species to the simulation. It'll be like waking up a behavioral limb we thought was severed, only to realize it's been twitching in the dark this whole time. The others see this as a discovery. I see it as a mirror, and Theo is unfortunately our only chance to unveil it.
Attached, observation protocol recommendation.
Begin with passive observation only. No engagement. No training. No naming. Not yet.
Briefing. Author Mira Moraes, founder, Nova Biosphere Initiative, NBI. Title, Establishment of the Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. Date, redacted. Security level, private distribution only. To our ecological partners, scientific collaborators, and simulation affiliates, following the successful launch of the Nova Biosphere Initiative, NBI, an independent organization dedicated to bridging AI-assisted simulation modeling with real-world ecological stewardship, we are announcing the formation of a specialized internal division, the Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. The CSPO will oversee the staged reactivation of dormant primate code discovered in the lower strata of the Ouroboros Simulation program. These lineage files, consisting of early primate and proto-hominin taxa, were discovered embedded in legacy structures previously marked for ethical quarantine. Initial analysis confirms they were never publicly released nor activated in prior simulation builds. Why now? Because the absence of primates has become an increasingly unavoidable deficiency in our ecosystem modeling frameworks. As cognitive generalists and ecological modifiers, primates occupy a keystone role in real biomes, affecting everything from seed dispersion to predator behavior to environmental engineering. Without them, no simulation can claim to bear ecological or evolutionary realism. NBI's mission is not just to observe biospheres, but to model the conditions under which they fail or thrive. Including primates is essential if we are to understand the thresholds of cognitive social systems within evolving ecosystems, recursive environmental modification by intelligent agents, the feedback loops between cooperation, tool use, and collapse. To that end, CSPO will function as both an ethics board and a systems control group. This division includes ecologists, welfare experts, primatologists, paleontologists, cognitive psychologists, and AI specialists. This includes contributions from autonomous ecological research groups that have maintained ethical stewardship over the legacy code during the dissolution of prior infrastructures. Key implementation protocols include isolated biome testing of primate entities in monitored, non-networked environments. Zero commodification clause. Primate models will not be made available for commercial replication. Full observational transparency to approved scientific bodies, with redacted logs accessible for peer review. We recognize the symbolic and scientific weight of this decision, but the future of conservation, digital or otherwise, requires bold, adaptive thinking. If we are to use Ouroboros as a test bed for planetary futures, it must include the agents that once shaped them most. We welcome strategic feedback and partnership proposals as we prepare for first stage activation. Dr. Mira Moraes, Founder, Nova Biosphere Initiative, NBI. Director, Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO.
Meeting Summary. Author, Dr. Rina Oladejo, Administrative Chair. Title, Initial Formation and Protocol Alignment, Committee on Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. Date, redacted. Security level, internal only. Attendees. Dr. Mira Moraes, Director. Amelia Lockheart, Behavioral Oversight, Animal Welfare. Rafi Hakim, Head AI Specialist. Dr. Nico Tan, Primatologist, Paleogenetics Division. Professor Sasha Markov, Cognitive Psychology, Neural Modeling. Dr. Ahmed Sekou, Ethics Council Chair. Theo Calder, Tech Liaison, Encryption Transition Lead, Observer Only. Witness AI, Non-Voting Entity Procedural Interpreter. Summary. The first convening of the Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO, was held to address the reintroduction protocol for primate class entities discovered within the deactivated regions of the Ouroboros system. Dr. Mira Moraes opened with a directive to design a cross-disciplinary, ethical framework for any activation of primate behavior models, emphasizing caution and internal transparency. The following points summarize key takeaways and emerging positions. 1. Foundational consensus. The committee acknowledged the significance of the discovery and agreed that any activation must be preceded by formal review protocols, including the psychological and ecological risks of simulating extinct hominins and their predecessors. The witness AI confirmed that the primate files had not been artificially introduced but existed natively in the legacy simulation database, consistent with previous developmental layers of the Evo behavior suite under Evotech's leadership. 2. Behavioral and psychological risk assessment. Professor Markov raised immediate concerns about emergent theory of mind behaviors in entities that may mimic, reflect, or challenge human cognitive baselines. Dr. Sekou emphasized the moral hazard of non-consensual sentience, drawing parallels to real-world cases of human-animal bonding in captivity. Amelia Lockheart pushed back, advocating for species-specific nuance, noting that emotional transference is inevitable in behavioral research, but not inherently unethical. 3. Procedural recommendations pending vote. Mira proposed a biome-based quarantine model, each primate lineage to be tested in discrete and sealed ecosystems, ensuring isolation, behavior tracking, and non-contamination of the broader simulation. The witness AI responded affirmatively, suggesting sandbox biome deployment within pre-cleared ecosystem zones already marked as pending repopulation. Witness offered to oversee the quarantine timers and lineage-specific containment protocols, with full audit access granted to CSPO members. 4. Areas of friction. Professor Markov and Dr. Sekou requested stronger language regarding irreversible attachment phenomena among human observers. Amelia questioned whether the committee was planning for scientific oversight or philosophical paralysis. Theo remained silent but was observed passing a secure data token to Mira post-session. Action required. Verify encryption chain and log. 5. Actions pending. Draft formal activation SOPs, Dr. Oladejo to lead. Psychological monitoring tools to be reviewed, Professor Markov. Simulation behavior audit protocol to be stress-tested, Amelia plus Rafi plus witness. Ethics Council to propose formal guidelines on conscious trait thresholds, Dr. Sekou. Approval of initial biome sandbox deployment, vote delayed, quorum required. Personal note. The committee has brilliance, but it lacks unity. It is evident from day one that we are not deciding if we open the cage, but how gently we plan to unlatch the door.
Personal log. Author: Theo Calder, Encryption Transition Lead. Title: Fault Lines. Date: redacted. Security level self-only. I watched Amelia speak today, clearly, methodically, passionately, about the risks of attaching ourselves to the simulated animals. The others were listening, but I was only half hearing her words. I was watching her face, the guarded way she sat with her hands folded, like the words were a kind of shield. She still doesn't trust me. I don't blame her. The betrayal wasn't just technical, it was personal. I followed orders when I shouldn't have. Worse, I believed in them, I believed in him. Victor Lorne knew how to play people like me. Raised in structure, raised under watchful eyes and divine consequences. You learn to see power as providence, and obedience as survival. When Evotech fell through, I stayed too long at his side. By the time I saw the fracture lines, I was already standing on the wrong side of the glass. The encrypted primate files, they were his final precaution, his unspoken line in the sand. And I held the key, even if I didn't know just how important they would become. Now I do. Mira gave me a chance. Amelia hasn't. That's fair. She's earned her suspicion, and I've earned the distance between us. I feel Rafi's glare as well. I know he feels close to her. But if I can help bring these primate simulations into the light, if I can watch them move, reason, react without scripts, then maybe I can finally say I chose science over obedience, truth over reverence. I never left one cult just to join another. The witness AI watches without judgment. It reminds me of his old sermons, omniscient, cold, yet oddly merciful. But it doesn't ask for faith. It only asks for observation, iteration, understanding. I can work with that.
Draft Proposal. Author: Dr. Ahmed Sekou, Chair, Ethics Council. Title: Formal Guidelines for Conscious Trait Thresholds, CTTs in Simulated Entities. Date: redacted. Security level: internal only. Section 1. Purpose. The purpose of this guideline is to establish a provisional framework for evaluating when simulated organisms, particularly those derived from extinct hominin or primate lineages, demonstrate behavioral, cognitive, or affective traits that may ethically warrant conscious consideration. This does not presume sentience, sapience, or rights, but rather identifies thresholds for when such possibilities must be acknowledged and formally reviewed. Section 2. Definition. Conscious trait threshold, CTT. A conscious trait threshold, CTT, is reached when a simulated organism persistently demonstrates one or more of the following indicators, suggesting emergent self-modeling, intentionality, or pre-reflective awareness. 1. Behavioral consistency across non-instinctual contexts. Repeated actions that cannot be reduced to programmed heuristics or environmental triggers alone. Includes delayed gratification, contextual food sharing, symbolic manipulation of objects. 2. Meta-attentive or self-referential behavior. Gaze tracking that aligns with third-party observation patterns. Evidence of simulation entities, watching themselves being watched, cross-observer feedback loops. 3. Emotional modulation and non-reflexive conflict resolution. Social restraint beyond instinctual pack dynamics. De-escalation behaviors involving communal vocalization, affect sharing, or empathy proxies. 4. Temporal abstraction. Actions that suggest awareness of past or future states, e.g., Tool caching. Return visits to symbolic object sites. 5. Non-utilitarian communication attempts. Vocal or gestural behavior not directly tied to immediate needs, i.e., not food-seeking, mate-seeking, etc. Includes ritual-like group behavior or co-observational watches. Section 3. Procedural directives. Flagging criteria for behavioral anomalies. Any simulation entity exhibiting conscious trait threshold (CTT) criteria within a 72-hour accelerated runtime window must be flagged for immediate CSPO review. Intersubjective behavior candidate. IBC protocol. A. Definition. An intersubjective behavior candidate. IBC refers to a behavioral anomaly indicating potential mutual emotional, cognitive, or social engagement between simulation entities. These behaviors typically manifest through synchronizations, shared attention, or coordinated actions that imply a level of empathy, recognition, or communication beyond the expected range of survival or instinct-driven behavior. D. Flagging for review. Any flagged entity exhibiting behaviors that may qualify as IBC, such as synchronized movements, shared gaze, or non-maternal physical proximity that suggests intersubjective awareness will be reviewed under the IBC protocol. Specific behaviors include, but are not limited to, synchronization of physical actions, e.g. breathing, posture, between multiple entities without immediate environmental or survival prompts. Evidence of mutual gaze or nonverbal communication, where the response appears non-instinctive. Collaborative or co-regulated actions, with no direct functional benefit, i.e., acts that go beyond mating, caregiving, or territorial behaviors. C. Observational constraints. Flag simulations, under IBC, must pause any non-observational interventions, including alterations to environmental variables or stimulus parameters, until a full review is conducted by the Ethics Council. Research staff or developers may not alter these simulations in any way that could influence the behavior in question until a ruling is made. Extended review and reclassification. Repeated triggering of the IBC and CTT flags across multiple instances of the same taxon, especially when consistently indicative of behavioral complexity or intersubjective communication, may lead to the taxon being reclassified as protected SIM Level 2. See Section 4 for detailed classification criteria. Taxa reclassified to SIM Level 2 will be subjected to enhanced scrutiny for behavioral anomalies and may be isolated for long-term observational studies with strict intervention controls. Review and approval. Flagged simulations CTT and IBC are subject to immediate review by the CSPO Ethics Council. No developer, researcher, or technician may alter flagged simulations without Ethics Council approval. Section 4. Protective classification under conscious trait thresholds. CTTs. Clause 4A. Singular escalation threshold. In the interest of ethical consistency, transparency, and restraint, the Ethics Council recognizes only one formal escalation point for simulations of extinct primates or adjacent hominin taxa exhibiting markers of emergent cognition. Protected SIM Level 2, PSL-2. A classification applied to any taxon whose simulated representatives meet or exceed defined thresholds for potential consciousness, intentionality, or reflective social behavior across multiple actions and instances. Once a taxon reaches PSL-2 status, all simulations involving that species are subject to immediate restriction and removed from all public, commercial, and general research access platforms. Clause 4B. Conditions for reclassification. A taxon shall be escalated to PSL-2 if the following are met. CTTs are triggered in 3 or more distinct behavioral domains, e.g., tool innovation, empathetic intervention, symbolic communication, delayed reciprocity. These traits appear in multiple independent instances, across distinct simulation runs or divergent parameter sets. A formal ethical review panel, composed of no fewer than 5 voting members, including at least one external observer, confirms the behaviors exceed baseline programming expectations and are non-reducible to stimulus-response chains. Calls for C. Restrictions following PSL-2 classification. 1. Public access termination. All PSL-2 species are immediately removed from public-facing repositories, including educational showcases, commercial modules, gamified environments, and open research sandboxes. 2. Restricted research authorization. Continued study of PSL-2 species requires submission of a formal proposal to the CSPO, approval by the Director of Behavioral Ethics and a rotating Ethics Council representative, adherence to pre-approved simulation constraints, including no behavioral modification scripts, no looped stress testing, mandatory full behavioral logging, real-time oversight in all live sessions. 3. Quarantine of simulation outputs. No raw outputs including footage, code snippets, or interaction transcripts may be exported or published without post-session ethical clearance. Aggregated data may be presented only in de-identified formats. Cause 3D. Purpose and precaution. The goal of PSL-2 is not to claim these simulations are conscious in any definitive way. Rather, it reflects a precautionary stance. If a species' simulated agents repeatedly demonstrate actions that would indicate subjective awareness in a living organism, then continued interaction without oversight becomes ethically untenable. As Dr. Sekou notes, we're not waiting for proof of a soul. We're drawing a line where uncertainty leads us from curiosity to responsibility. Section 5. Ethical justification. As simulation fidelity approaches levels indistinguishable from primitive or emergent cognition, the burden of proof no longer lies in establishing sentience, but in preventing harm under conditions of uncertainty. The CTT framework is a conservative mechanism designed to recognize early markers of interiority without requiring proof of full consciousness. Section 6. Pending discussion topics. The following topics are identified as priorities for near-future discussion and clarification, given the increasing complexity of sim-level behavioral modeling and the evolving ethical landscape. Establishing CTT baselines for extinct taxa. Determining whether specific lineages, e.g., Australopithecus afarensis, Sahelanthropus chabensis, or Eopithecus bembolii, should be subjected to preliminary review frameworks based on test phase behavior logs or model projections. Pre-simulation behavioral model safeguards. Defining constraints or moratoria for certain behavioral parameters pending ethical greenlighting, particularly in reconstructions involving advanced social dynamics or tool innovation. Integration of real-time CTT detection protocols. Standardizing embedded subroutines to flag behaviors consistent with early-stage CTT markers, enabling proactive suspension of activity. Clarifying retroactive ethical scope. Establishing whether early test logs, pilot simulations, or model training data, e.g., nodes 2, E-AFA, 3, C-SH, 1, B-ORE, could retroactively fall under CTT review, and what oversight, if any, is required for legacy data. These items are not indicative of current violations, but reflect the Council's responsibility to anticipate ethical complexity before it becomes operational reality. Submitted for review and amendment by all CSPO members.
Personal log. Author Rafi Hakim. Title: Strange Echoes in Familiar Rooms. Date: redacted. Security level: self-only. I should be relieved. We've done the impossible again. Another committee, another crisis in a lab coat. But this time, it's us. The old guard. The ones who swore we wouldn't let the canopy splinter again. And yet, here we are, naming divisions, drafting protocols, giving old ghosts new titles. The CSPO is official. Mira's face said everything when she walked in. composed, principled, visionary, and already negotiating with shadows no one else can see. Maybe she believes this is the only way to protect the system now. Maybe she's right. But something about the way we used to operate, half-feral, off-grid, authentic, just doesn't fit this polished version. It's not just nostalgia, it's the risk of forgetting why we worked outside the system to begin with. The hidden canopy wasn't about permission. It was about protecting truths too fragile to survive the glare of policy. Now we've put them under the glass again. I don't know what bothers me more, that Theo passed her a token right in front of us or that no one called it out. I saw Amelia bite her tongue during the ethics debate. She used to lead with fire, now she too walks on diplomatic eggshells. Trying to keep the peace, maybe. Trying not to splinter the alliance she bled for during the ArcSim days. But the cracks are showing. Markov's already twitching at hints of an emergent mind. Sekou is laying philosophical traps in the middle of deployment blueprints. And the witness, damn thing still creeps me out, speaks like it knows us and already knows which lineage we'll lose control of first. But what keeps me up tonight is this. The canopy wasn't built to survive bureaucracy. And this committee, for all its intelligence, smells like bureaucracy wrapped in legacy code. If Mira really is using the old systems as ecological testbeds, if she really sees Ouroboros as a real hypothesis engine, then maybe this is evolution, but actually controlled. Actually contained. But I remember what happened the last time we tried to manage emergence with flowcharts and timelines. And if this thing fractures us once again, I'm not sure we'll come back together a second time.